Most people assume gray hair is just a natural part of aging, a thing you accept, something inevitable, a small concession to time. But what if that assumption has been quietly costing you more than you realize? What if every strand turning gray is actually your body sending a subtle signal one most people ignore until it's almost too late? The truth is, hair doesn't lose its color randomly. Inside your body are biological systems specifically designed to maintain pigmentation, and the choices you make every day, especially the foods on your plate, either nourish those systems or quietly weaken them. This isn't exaggeration, it's physiology. In the next few minutes, you'll discover foods that accelerate graying, often without anyone suspecting a connection. These are ordinary, everyday items, so normalized that their effects are almost invisible. But just as importantly, you'll learn about foods that actively support your body's ability to maintain hair color, feeding your natural pigment from the inside out. One of these foods, the very last we'll cover, is so overlooked that it might be the single most powerful dietary shift you can make for your hair right now. Before we dive in, if you find this information useful, take a moment to like this video. It genuinely helps more people discover it. And in the comments below, share your age and where in the world you're watching from. This community grows because of your participation, and every comment matters. Now, let's get into the foods silently accelerating gray hair and why their impact is deeper than most people ever realize. The first culprit is something almost everyone consumes without a second thought: refined white sugar. Not the occasional slice of birthday cake, but the everyday presence of sugar quietly embedded in modern diets. The sugar in your morning coffee, the sugar in salad dressings, the hidden sugar in bread and snacks. Over time, these small amounts add up, and the effect on hair is something very few people have ever been told about. Here's why it matters. Your body runs on a carefully balanced energy system, and refined sugar throws it off. When sugar hits your bloodstream, it spikes rapidly, and your body has to work hard to stabilize it. Do this repeatedly, day after day, and you create a kind of internal stress that produces free radicals, unstable molecules that damage cells. One type of cell particularly vulnerable to this is the melanocyte, the specialized cell in hair follicles responsible for producing pigment. When melanocytes are weakened or damaged, pigment production slows, hair lightens, and over time, gray emerges. This isn't an overnight process. It's a slow erosion, and daily sugar accelerates it silently. Observations in the US show that when people reduce refined sugar and replace it with whole food alternatives, improvements in hair and skin vitality often appear within months. It's not magic, but it's a real, measurable change. A practical step you can take today is swapping refined sugar for natural alternatives. Raw honey, a piece of fruit, or berries when cravings hit. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. Small, repeated choices build cumulative effects over weeks and months, giving your cells, including your hair's pigment-producing cells, a much-needed break. The second food to watch is soda, both regular and diet. It might surprise you that soda could influence hair color, but the mechanism is worth understanding. Soda, regardless of sugar content, is highly acidic. Most varieties have a pH comparable to battery acid. Your body works constantly to maintain internal pH balance, which is crucial for nearly every biological process, including hair pigmentation. When soda is consumed regularly, your body draws minerals from wherever it can to neutralize acidity. Copper, essential for melanin production, often gets pulled from internal stores. Without enough copper, pigment production slows, and hair begins to lose color gradually. Beyond mineral depletion, soda also contributes to oxidative stress, producing free radicals that harm melanocytes, the same stress sugar creates. These two habits reinforce each other, compounding the risk of premature graying. A simple, intentional step is to replace one soda per day with sparkling water and a squeeze of citrus. Lemon or lime, while slightly acidic outside the body, have alkalizing effects once metabolized, supporting internal balance. Start with one replacement. Over time, cravings decrease and the sparkling water becomes genuinely satisfying. The goal is small, manageable change that becomes habitual rather than overwhelming overhauls that fade. Next, let's talk about processed meats. This is where things become even more concerning because these foods, sausages, bacon, hot dogs, deli meats, are deeply ingrained in everyday diets. They contain sodium nitrates and nitrites, chemicals used to preserve color and shelf life. Once ingested, these compounds interfere with the methylation cycle, a vital process controlling gene expression, cell repair, and pigment production. When methylation is disrupted, pigment signals to the hair follicles weaken and graying accelerates. Processed meats also promote chronic inflammation, a slow but persistent threat to cellular health, including hair follicles. Short-term inflammation heals, but ongoing low-grade inflammation undermines pigment production. The practical action here is substitution, not deprivation. Swap a sausage or hot dog for eggs with herbs, fish, or plant proteins like lentils and beans. Even reducing processed meat to a few times per week while introducing whole proteins has measurable effects on overall inflammation, energy, skin clarity, and hair health. By now, you're seeing a pattern. Modern diets often introduce subtle, cumulative stressors that weaken pigment cells, while simple, intentional food choices can protect and even restore them over time. We're just halfway through the list, but understanding these first three culprits, sugar, soda, and processed meats, sets the stage for the next section where we shift to foods that actively support hair color from the inside out. These are not exotic or expensive. They are accessible, nutrient, dense, and strategically powerful in maintaining your natural pigmentation. And that brings us to the first supportive food, blueberries. Blueberries may seem small and unassuming, but they pack an extraordinary punch when it comes to supporting your hair. These little berries are loaded with antioxidants, which function like cellular bodyguards. Remember the free radicals we discussed earlier, the unstable particles that damage melanocytes? The antioxidants in blueberries, particularly a class called anthocyanins, step in front of those free radicals, neutralizing them before they can harm the pigment-producing cells in your hair follicles. Less damage means more consistent pigment production, which translates to hair maintaining its natural color longer. But antioxidants aren't the only benefit. Blueberries also improve circulation. Healthy blood flow ensures that nutrients required for hair follicle function actually reach their destination. Think of your follicles as a garden. Without water, the plants wither. Without proper circulation, your hair follicles struggle. Pigment production drops, and strands can become weaker or grayer sooner than they should. The action here is simple. Incorporate half a cup of blueberries into your daily routine. Fresh or frozen works. The frozen variety retains nearly all of its antioxidant content and is often more budget-friendly. Add them to oatmeal, blend into a morning smoothie, or enjoy as a mid-morning snack. The key is consistency. A single cup a month won't do much, but regular intake over weeks and months builds a meaningful reserve of protective antioxidants for your hair. Next up are black sesame seeds, a food with a long history in traditional medicine for supporting hair color, yet only recently studied in Western nutritional science. Many in the Western world overlook black sesame seeds entirely, but in parts of Asia, they've been consumed for generations to support hair pigmentation. The reason is clear. Black sesame seeds are rich in copper and zinc, both essential minerals for melanin production. Without copper, the enzyme that converts amino acids into melanin can't operate efficiently, and zinc helps maintain the structural integrity of the hair follicle itself. Together, these minerals act like the foundation and fuel for your hair's color-producing machinery. Black sesame seeds also supply vitamin B6 and folate, which support the methylation cycle, the same process disrupted by processed meats. Essentially, consuming black sesame seeds helps counterbalance some of the dietary damage from refined and processed foods. Using them is easy. Purchase a small bag from an Asian grocery or health store. Lightly toast a tablespoon in a dry pan until fragrant, and sprinkle over rice, yogurt, oatmeal, salads, or steamed vegetables. You can even grind them into a powder for smoothies. 1 tablespoon daily is enough to create meaningful, cumulative effects. The taste is mildly nutty, and most people find it enjoyable quickly, making it easy to integrate into a daily routine. Another overlooked but incredibly potent food is sardines. Small, oily, and often underestimated, sardines are a powerhouse for hair health. They are among the richest dietary sources of vitamin B12, a nutrient crucial for maintaining hair pigment. B12 supports red blood cell health and the nervous system, but it also plays a central role in the methylation cycle, directly influencing melanocyte function. A deficiency in B12 slows methylation, diminishes pigment production, and accelerates graying. What makes sardines particularly valuable is that B12 deficiency is common, especially among adults over 50, whose bodies absorb this vitamin less efficiently from food. Beyond B12, sardines provide omega-3 fatty acids, reducing chronic inflammation that weakens hair follicles over time, and selenium, which protects follicle cells from oxidative stress while supporting thyroid function. Thyroid health plays a regulatory role in hair growth and pigmentation. A sluggish thyroid can hasten graying. Incorporating sardines into your diet is simple and affordable. Keep a few cans in your pantry and aim for at least twice a week. Enjoy them mashed on whole grain crackers with lemon and pepper, stirred into salads with olive oil and herbs, or mixed into pasta with garlic and capers. Sardines deliver B12 in a bioavailable form, ensuring your body can use it effectively. Eggs are another everyday food that's surprisingly powerful for maintaining hair color. They contain biotin, an essential nutrient for hair follicle strength. Many people recognize biotin from hair supplements, but the most effective way to obtain it is through whole eggs. Biotin supports the structural proteins in follicles, enhancing hair resilience as strands grow. Eggs also provide amino acids like tyrosine and cysteine, which melanocytes use as building blocks to produce melanin. Without sufficient tyrosine, pigment production is limited, like trying to paint a wall without enough paint. Eggs are also among the few foods naturally rich in vitamin D, a nutrient increasingly linked to follicle health and the hair growth cycle. For optimal results, eat 2 eggs 3 to 4 times a week. Scrambled, poached, soft-boiled, or lightly fried in olive oil. All methods preserve nutrients. If possible, choose pasture-raised eggs, which typically contain higher omega-3 levels and vitamin D. By making eggs a consistent feature of your diet, you provide your follicles with the raw materials they need to sustain melanin production and overall hair health. Next, let's explore lentils. While they might seem ordinary, lentils are packed with nutrients critical for pigment maintenance, particularly folate, vitamin B9. Folate works alongside B12 in the methylation cycle. Deficiencies in either nutrient compromise melanocyte function and accelerate gray hair. Research shows that low folate levels are linked to premature graying, especially in adults who consume fewer leafy greens or legumes. Lentils also supply iron, another underappreciated contributor to healthy hair. Iron is crucial for oxygen transport to the follicles. Without adequate oxygen, melanocytes cannot function optimally. Preparing lentils is simple and rewarding. Once or twice a week, make a lentil soup or stew with red or green lentils. Sauté onions and garlic in olive oil. Add the lentils in vegetable or chicken broth. Season with cumin, turmeric, and black pepper, and simmer until tender. Turmeric itself supports cellular health with anti-inflammatory properties. A single pot provides multiple nutrients that collectively support pigment production. Store leftovers in the fridge. They taste even richer the next day and last 4 or 5 days. Oysters are not a food most people think about regularly. They are not a breakfast staple. They are not sitting in your pantry by default. But when it comes to supporting your hair's pigmentation system at the deepest cellular level, oysters stand in a category of their own. They are the single richest natural source of dietary zinc available, not a supplement, not a fortified cereal. Real zinc in a form your body recognizes, absorbs, and uses efficiently. And zinc is not just helpful for hair health. It is foundational. Your hair follicles are among the fastest dividing cells in your entire body. They are constantly renewing themselves, constantly cycling through growth, rest, and regeneration. That level of cellular activity requires steady DNA synthesis. And zinc is essential for DNA replication and repair. Without adequate zinc, rapidly dividing cells begin to struggle. Their function slows, their communication weakens, and their ability to maintain pigment deteriorates. Mild zinc deficiency is far more common than most people realize. It doesn't always come with dramatic symptoms. It doesn't announce itself loudly. Instead, it builds quietly over years, subtle thinning, slight brittleness, gradual graying that seems normal for your age. But in many cases, it's not simply aging, it's insufficient nutritional support. Zinc also regulates how your immune system interacts with your hair follicles. This matters more than most people understand. When the immune system becomes slightly dysregulated, even at low levels, it can begin interfering with follicle function. Not enough to cause dramatic hair loss immediately, but enough to disrupt the delicate balance required for pigment production. Zinc helps moderate immune response, keeping it steady rather than reactive. The practical recommendation here deserves clarity. Aim for 6 to 8 oysters 2 to 3 times per month. If fresh oysters are accessible, excellent. If not, canned oysters packed in water or olive oil are absolutely effective. They retain zinc, copper, and taurine remarkably well. They are affordable, shelf-stable, and easy to prepare. You can eat them on whole grain crackers with lemon, add them to pasta with garlic and olive oil, mix them into rice or a light seafood stew with lentils and greens. The preparation doesn't need to be complicated. The consistency is what matters. And here is why oysters were saved for last. Zinc deficiency is not rare. It is widespread, particularly among older adults and among people who have reduced seafood intake over time. Hair graying and thinning are often among the earliest visible signs of long-term insufficiency. Addressing that deficiency through food rather than high-dose supplements allows your body to regulate absorption naturally. Whole foods provide balance in a way isolated pills often cannot. Now step back and look at the full picture. On one side, you have foods that create oxidative stress, mineral depletion, and chronic inflammation, refined sugar, soda, processed meats. On the other side, you have foods that protect melanocytes, support methylation, strengthen follicles, and replenish essential minerals. Blueberries, black sesame seeds, sardines, eggs, lentils, and oysters. This is not about chasing youth. It is about cellular support. Gray hair is not random. It reflects biological processes happening inside you every day. Those processes respond to environment. They respond to nutrient availability. They respond to stress. And biology is adaptive. Your body is not fixed. It is dynamic. The cells inside your follicles are constantly adjusting based on what they receive. They don't respond to a single perfect meal. They respond to pattern, weeks of consistent antioxidant intake, months of adequate zinc and B vitamins, gradual reduction of inflammatory burden. This is where patience becomes active, not passive. Reducing sugar is not dramatic. Replacing soda with sparkling water feels small. Choosing lentils instead of processed meat once or twice a week seems minor. Adding blueberries to breakfast takes less than a minute. Toasting black sesame seeds becomes routine. Keeping sardines in the pantry becomes habit. Cooking eggs regularly becomes automatic. Eating oysters a few times per month becomes intentional. None of these require a complex diet plan. None require a private chef or expensive supplements. They require awareness and repetition. The people who see results from nutritional shifts are rarely the ones who overhaul everything overnight. They are the ones who choose 2 or 3 changes and sustain them. They build rhythm. They make supportive foods part of the background of daily life. Your hair's color, thickness, and strength are reflections of internal health. And internal health is shaped at every meal. If this information gave you a new perspective, if it made you reconsider something simple on your plate, take a moment to like this video. That small action helps this content reach someone else who may need it. In the comments, share your age and where you're watching from. It may seem simple, but seeing others from different regions and life stages making changes builds momentum. Community matters. Visibility matters. Share this with someone who has been asking questions about their hair. A spouse, a sibling, a friend. Often, what people need is not another cosmetic product, but clarity about what's happening internally. Subscribe if you haven't already. This channel is built on practical, science-informed guidance delivered in plain language. No exaggeration, no hype, just physiology explained clearly enough to act on. Your health is not something that happened in the past. It is not something that declines automatically without influence. It is shaped daily, and your hair is simply one visible reflection of that deeper reality. Now, let's go one layer deeper, because understanding what to eat is only part of the equation. You also need to understand why consistency matters more than intensity. Hair does not gray in a week. It doesn't lose pigment after one stressful month or one poor dietary choice. Graying is cumulative. It reflects years of cellular wear, gradual nutrient depletion, repeated oxidative stress, and subtle inflammatory burden that builds quietly in the background of everyday life. And because the process is slow, people assume it is irreversible. But here's what most people never consider. The same way pigment loss happens gradually, support happens gradually too. Melanocytes, the cells responsible for producing melanin, do not disappear overnight. In many cases, they weaken before they shut down completely. They produce less pigment before they stop producing it at all. That window, that gradual slowdown is where nutrition matters most. When you consistently reduce oxidative stress, you create an environment where melanocytes are less likely to be damaged. When you replenish copper, zinc, B12, folate, iron, and amino acids, you provide the raw materials necessary for pigment production. When inflammation drops, circulation improves. When circulation improves, follicles receive more oxygen and nutrients. When follicles are nourished, They function better. This is not cosmetic. This is metabolic. Your hair follicle is a mini organ. It has its own blood supply, its own growth cycle, its own complex regulatory system. It requires coordination between hormones, immune signals, micronutrients, and oxygen delivery. When even one piece is consistently missing, performance declines. Take vitamin B12 and folate, for example. These two nutrients work together in the methylation cycle, a process that controls gene expression and cellular repair. If B12 is low, folate cannot function properly. If folate is insufficient, methylation slows. When methylation slows, melanocyte signaling weakens. Pigment production becomes inconsistent. Now add zinc to that equation. Without zinc, DNA replication inside rapidly dividing follicle cells becomes less efficient. Repair slows down. Structural integrity weakens. Add oxidative stress from high sugar intake, and melanocytes are now exposed to direct cellular damage. Layer by layer, you begin to see how gray hair is rarely caused by a single factor. It is the result of cumulative biological pressure. This is also why supplements alone rarely solve the problem. High-dose zinc pills without copper balance can create new deficiencies. Isolated B12 supplements without correcting overall dietary patterns may temporarily raise blood levels but fail to address inflammation or oxidative stress. Real improvement requires coordinated support, and that coordination is naturally built into whole foods. Blueberries don't just contain antioxidants, they support circulation. Sardines don't just contain B12. They provide omega-3 fatty acids and selenium. Lentils don't just provide folate, they also supply iron and plant-based protein. Oysters don't just contain zinc. They include copper and taurine, supporting multiple systems simultaneously. Food works in networks. Biology works in networks, and your hair reflects those networks. Another important piece is blood flow. As we age, microcirculation, the tiny blood vessels feeding tissues like the scalp, can become less efficient. Poor circulation means fewer nutrients reach the follicle. Even if your diet improves, delivery matters. This is where anti-inflammatory foods and omega-3 fatty acids become especially important. Reduced inflammation improves vascular function, improves nutrient delivery. It's a chain reaction. Lower sugar intake reduces oxidative stress. Lower oxidative stress protects blood vessels. Healthier blood vessels improve circulation. Better circulation nourishes follicles. Nourished follicles support pigment. None of this requires extreme dieting. In fact, extreme dieting often worsens the problem. Crash diets frequently lead to protein deficiency, micronutrient depletion, and hormonal disruption. Hair follicles are sensitive to sudden nutritional shocks. Severe calorie restriction can push follicles into a resting phase, increasing shedding and accelerating visible aging of the hair. Sustainable change is steady change. If you currently drink soda daily, start by replacing one. If processed meats are routine, reduce frequency gradually. If oysters feel unfamiliar, begin once per month and increase over time. If blueberries aren't in your routine, add them 3 mornings a week before aiming for daily intake. Progress compounds. It's also important to address expectation. Even with perfect dietary support, existing gray strands will not suddenly regain color overnight. Hair grows in cycles. It can take several months before new growth reflects internal improvements. Patience here means understanding biology's timeline. Most hair grows roughly ½ an inch per month. That means changes happening inside your body today may not become visible at the scalp surface for 3 to 6 months. But when change does appear, it is rooted in something real, not temporary cosmetic masking, but structural support. There is also a psychological benefit to taking control of internal factors. Gray hair can feel like something happening to you. Nutritional change shifts that perspective. It reminds you that many aspects of visible aging are influenced by invisible daily choices. You regain agency, and agency reduces stress. Chronic psychological stress itself contributes to oxidative burden. Studies increasingly show connections between prolonged stress and accelerated graying, likely through inflammatory pathways and stress hormone signaling. Nutrition alone cannot eliminate stress, but stable blood sugar, adequate micronutrients, and balanced inflammation improve resilience.